finding out what you love is also a challenge. It's back to the question, why am I here?
Yeah.
It requires some effort to define it. And values. What are your values? And the time, like how much time have you got? If you'll allow me, I'd like to show you a little something that defines time for me.
Welcome to Season 3 of Beyond the Business Plan, the podcast for burned out professionals and entrepreneurs who know there's more to life than just hitting the next revenue goal. I'm Lyon, founder and chief joy officer of joyminder.com. I'm a private money broker and creator of the Sailing System, SAILING system, for designing a business and life you actually love. Each week this season, I'll be talking with guests and sharing stories about what happens after the business plan works. Money, real estate, legacy, faith, and whole person success. If you're ready to join the sail setters and chart your own course beyond burnout, hit that follow or subscribe so you catch every episode. My guest today is a seasoned U.S. and Canadian immigration lawyer who has helped more than 10,000 clients navigate the complex legal challenges of immigration. Over his career, Andy Semotiuk practiced law in both Los Angeles and New York, and his expertise extends far beyond the courtroom. And he is also the author of not one, two, but 5 books, a former United Nations correspondent, and for the past decade, a Forbes contributor, where his articles have reached more than 1 million readers. His leadership includes serving on the tribunal panel of the Canadian Human Rights Commission and as a past president of the Canada-Ukraine Foundation. On top of that, as a distinguished Toastmaster, Andy brings not only his legal and global insights, but also a communication style that inspires and connects with people. Andy, are you there? Come on forward. There he is.
Hello, how are you?
Great. It's good to see you, Andy. You got a whole bunch of flags behind you. What are they?
Right.
I recognize one of them.
We have this free trade agreement between the 3 countries, US, Canada, and Mexico. So those are the flags for the 3 countries. Yeah.
Excellent. And are you currently in Canada as we're recording today?
Yes, I'm at Pace Law Firm in Toronto, Ontario. This is where I'm practicing from now. I'm doing both US and Canadian immigration work now.
So both directions, people coming to Canada, people going to the United States.
Actually, from all over, either to the United States or to Canada.
Oh, okay. So they could be coming from, we mentioned Ukraine as part of your immigration. So you may be helping people come from there or anywhere else. That's fascinating.
Yes, right.
Well, and 5 books. What's your most recent book?
The most recent book was a book about my great aunt, who was quite a famous opera star. It's called Solomia, and it was about her life and how she rescued the opera Madame Butterfly from a disaster to great success, working with Puccini and Toscanini and people like that, and starring with Caruso people. If you're in the opera world, you would know those names. And
I do. I'm not even in the opera world, and I know those names.
Yeah. It's sort of like Maria Callas, maybe a familiar name to people, even if you're not in opera these days. She was a big star. And before her, there was this Solomia Krushelnicka, who was my great aunt.
Amazing. That is not what I expected you to say. Are all of your books that personal?
No. I mean, I've written a book about my mother and her experience, her immigrant experience. And I've written a book called The Young Professional, which is a career guidebook for people going into the professions. That's the one that's probably most relevant to what we're going to be discussing today. And I've also written a joke book, a couple of joke books.
Okay, a lawyer who writes joke books.
Yeah.
Love this. So, I gotta say, tell me a joke.
Sure, okay. So a family's having a late dinner, and one of the kids. Little Michael is with them. And the mother says to the father, I'm very tired after cooking all the meals. Take Michael upstairs to sleep. So the father goes upstairs with Michael. An hour passes, nothing. Then Michael shows up downstairs and he says, Father has finally fallen asleep.
Excellent. I have a lawyer joke.
Okay, go ahead.
So the lawyer is throwing his big fancy holiday party and everybody's there, the caterers and all the people parking cars and the whole big deal. They're all ready. It's going to start in like 45 minutes and he realizes that the main toilet in the room is that most people may need to use isn't working right. So they call the emergency plumber. He gets out there, he twists a couple things, turns a couple things, voila, everything's all better and it works fine. Hands the lawyer a bill and the lawyer's like, I don't even charge this much. And the plumber hitched up his jeans and said, Yeah, I used to be a lawyer.
Oh, that's hilarious. I
But
should take
that's,
up plumbing.
you know? Well, and that's, what we talk about with Beyond the Business Plan and Joyminder is, a lot of people do go into one profession and they think that's what I should do. Lawyers are a
Yeah,
lot of people, you're 20 years old and you've lawyering has been
yeah,
in your profession, your family, I mean, for years, and it's just what you do. But
yeah.
if it's not the calling on your heart, if it's not your passion, maybe you want to be an opera singer. At what point do you decide, what's my calling is more important than what my family history is?
Yeah, that's a good discussion to get into. I noticed among the books you have behind you, there's one about something about, the
Hmm.
why of things. And you're touching on one of the themes that I like to talk about. Yeah, start with why.
Yeah.
Um, all of us, pretty much, have two key questions we need to answer in our lives. One is, who am I? And that's a question that's hard to answer because uh, there's a whole universe in between these two ears that's as big as the universe out there that you can explore to inquire about who you are and figure that out. And the other one is the why question, and that's why am I here? Why
Mm.
am I here? And in that regard, in my discussions with young people in particular, when I meet with a group of young people, I like to ask the question, why are we here? And or put it another way, what's the purpose to life? And that's it's a not an easy question to answer, and they start thinking about, wow, what's the purpose to life? And they start throw out some answers. Um, to love, yeah, uh, to find meaningful work, yeah, to achieve meaningful goals, progressively better meaningful goals. That's a good answer. Um, but the answer that I like in particular, one that I think fits in the category of good answers, to love, to leave a legacy, you know, to be the best you can be. Or these are all answers that people give me, young people in particular. The one I like is to find your unique ability and put it into the work or into the service of others.
Yeah.
I really like that answer.
Mm.
If you're a religious person, you might say to find your God-given unique ability and put it to the work of others or into the service of others. And that's not an easy thing to do. That's something that requires, you can't go have a coffee at Starbucks, pull out a notebook and make a few notes and come up with answers like that. It's in the realm of things like doing a good resume. You start off, you think, oh, I'll just list a whole bunch of things. But as you get into it, you realize, well, this is not so easy. There's a lot to it. And you're shaping yourself and your perception of yourself while you're working on this resume, which is, I think, a really important thing for a person to do.
Yeah.
But to come back to the point you made, which is, you got to have passion for what you're doing. I like to share the story of Carl Volenda, who was once a great tightrope walker and who walked across a tightrope in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and fell from it and died
Mm.
back, I think, in the 1980s. But before he fell, he was interviewed by journalists, and they asked him, why do you walk a tightrope? Why do that? And his answer was intriguing. His answer was, I only really live my life
Mm.
when I walk the tightrope.
Mm.
And everything before is a mere prelude to, and everything after is a postscript following. Walking and living my real life on the tightrope. So what was so important to him, it was so important that he was willing to risk his life for the sake of being on that tightrope. And that's something I found, like in reading about biographies of other famous people.
Mhm.
That's a common theme. So, for example, I really like Elvis Presley music, and it's a theme that comes up in his biography, where he said that the only time he really lives is when he performs in front of an audience.
Well, and to be fair, the first time we met, before we decided that this would be a match and that I'd love to have you on the show, a relatively significant event was taking place at the time. As we met, the news of Charlie Kirk having been shot was first released. And I think by the time we finished our conversation, we knew the result of that. And, but, and whether, you can love him, hate him, I'm not going to go there with anybody, but he did die doing what he loved. Whether
Yes,
you like what he did or didn't like what he did, he was doing it right then. He was
yeah,
at he was on a mountaintop at the moment that he
yeah.
passed. And I don't think anybody could ask for better than that.
That's a great example
Yeah.
of needing to, uh, why waste your life on stuff you don't care about? Why not devote your life to things you really do care about?
Yeah.
But that comes down to defining what is it that you care about,
Yeah.
which is another discussion.
Yeah.
But that takes, forgive me, that pretty much covers kind of in a nutshell the issue of money, as far as
Mhm.
I'm concerned, which is the theme you were touching on when you were saying about lawyers, etc. And the point I would make on that theme is um, it's impossible for you to do any better than your unique ability and focusing on your unique ability. And therefore, you're in the world of competition. There's no competition because you're working in the unique ability that you have if you're
Truly.
focusing on it. But the defining factor is the passion you have for what you're doing. You have to have the passion. You have to really want it. Like so much that you may be even willing to risk falling off a tightrope and falling to your death for the sake of it. Or in the case of Charlie, unfortunately being shot
Yeah.
while you're performing it
Yeah.
or doing it.
Well, I'm grateful that the thing I love best is this and on a computer screen across the continent. I'm not usually at risk.
It's
So,
it's funny you should say that because this is exactly what I love the best in my life as well.
yeah. Yeah.
Believe it or not. Yeah.
And this is actually, now we're in season 2 of Beyond the Business Plan, and a change from season 1 to season 2 was actually just refocusing on these specific conversations more so. Season 1, I did a lot of solo shows as well, and they're great, and I refer people back to them a lot. But this is truly where getting to talk with everybody about their genius, about their why, about what they're passionate about. And along the way, made some really fun friends. I had a woman that was on a meeting with me earlier this week, but we met months ago, and she wrote a whole book on kindness. In her profession where she was, she just realized that there was a lack of kindness happening, and she became passionate about kindness, and she created a kindness project, and then she wrote a kindness book. And, what you're called to do, if you allow it, will usually bubble up. Will you
Yeah,
make money at it? Maybe, maybe not. But if you die at the end of your life, having done what you love, I think you end up happier than
yeah,
just dying with a whole bunch of money in a bank account someplace.
I agree. Again, I caution
Hmm.
finding out what you love is also a challenge. It's back to the question, why am I here?
Yeah.
It requires some effort to define it. And values. What are your values? And that might take us to another area, which is time, like how much time have you got?
Hmm.
And if you'll allow me, I'd like to show you a little something that defines time for me, and
Sure.
I think would probably define time for a lot of other people, perhaps even you. I have here, uh, one of these tape measures for,
Sure.
how long is a board or whatever, how long, right?
Okay.
Um, Let me ask you this question, Leanne. How long do you think you're going to live? To what age do you think you will live? And when will you die? At what age?
Oh, good question. Let's see, given the state of the world, and no, if the world doesn't just go away, uh, the number 89 just popped into my head.
Okay. Uh, well, I know that survey, like people who have studied and do the statistics in Canada, at least, the age is around 80, the dominant age. You know,
Yeah.
most people live to about 80 years.
Hmm.
Women live a little longer than men, but let's say it's 80 for the
Sure.
sake for your life and my life and everybody who's listening.
Sure.
And let's say that in with this tape measures, I pull it out. Every inch represents 1 year in your life.
Okay.
So if I pull this tape measure out, now people may not be able to see it because we're doing a podcast, but
Right.
if I pulled it out to 80 inches,
Uh-huh.
and
He's
I
actually
asked,
holding a pot. He is actually
yeah,
holding a tape measure
yeah,
for anybody just
there we
listening.
go.
You can come over to YouTube and watch if you wish.
And if if I did that, so
Yeah.
here I'm going to pull it out all the
Okay.
way. I'm at 50 right now,
Okay.
long way to 80.
Wait.
It rhymes with Tipperary. Okay, here's 80. Okay. Now this stretches out to halfway through the room I'm in.
Sure.
And then I asked you, okay, point to where you are, meaning for every inch 1 year of your life, point on this tape measure where you are. Now, I probably will point a little further ahead than you will. And you may point a little further ahead than some of the people who are listening. They may be younger and so on. But what is shocking about it, if you try this at home or later,
Yeah.
is you realize, oh my goodness, how much of my life has passed
Yeah.
and how much I've got left. Like in my case, I don't have much tape left, compared to say my daughter or my grandchild who's
Right.
3,
Yeah.
they've got 70 whatever, inches left or years left. And that's kind of a scary wake-up call. And I encourage you to do it, actually physically do it, so you can see for yourself, where are you in your now it's likely you're going to live a little longer than 80, Leanne, because, if we're up to 50 or 60 or whatever, your life is going to be likely a little longer. But nonetheless, it's
Right.
a good kind of a metaphor to
Yeah.
consider what's going on in your life.
And at
And
the
that
same
takes us,
time, we're not guaranteed 5 more minutes. I mean,
that's
there's nothing, and there is no contract out there saying that we will get anything. I mean, I was hit by a drunk driver when I was 17.
Wow.
I had a friend in college killed by a drunk driver when I was 20. I mean, so you realize, and that was way too young to have to face that type of
Yeah.
mortality, but I did. I had to. And so when you start to realize you're not guaranteed 5 minutes from now, you don't have forever to wait. And if so, if you have a calling on your heart, if you feel that you're supposed to write a book, so to speak,
Yeah.
as I do, and as I have not yet done,
Mm.
I spoke with somebody recently. They said, look, again, from a faith perspective, we say our book was written before we were born. If my book says I was supposed to write a book and I don't, I go to heaven as the author who didn't write the book.
Yeah. Right. Wow. Good thoughts. I actually represented, in one case in particular, a young man, young boy, 14-year-old who got hit by a car,
Ugh,
damage, $7 million in damages.
ugh,
It's a terrible, terrible experience.
yeah. Well, and
But anyway,
I came home from college with a head injury.
oh my,
Couldn't walk, couldn't read. I mean, my parents were looking at a 20-year-old that they didn't know, what was going to happen with me. It turned out
you
okay.
have a story to tell
I
for sure,
do.
for
I have
sure.
a couple.
You better get on that book like right away, man. Do not wait. Do not wait.
Okay, well, I guess you'd have a publisher. Hey, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to dive a little bit more into your whole journey because,
Sure,
how you got into writing books versus you started with law school, I'm guessing, but maybe
sure,
there's a few other nuances that we can get into as well. So
sure.
we'll take a quick
Okay.
break. Be right back. Hey, sales setters, do you need energy without the crash? Check out the lifestyle section in our resources on joyminder.com/resources for delicious, healthier coffee alternatives to boost your focus and fuel your hustle. Skip the jitters, love your brew. You can also go directly to whyilovemycoffee.com, and I'll see you there. And we are back. So excited to be here with you. And we've talked a lot about some fairly deep topics. What is your why and who am I and the meaning of life and how long it's pretty cool stuff. But you're not in your 20s or 30s anymore, I'm guessing. You
No.
mentioned a grandchild already. So
Yes.
um did you go right into law from like right away?
Well, maybe a little bit of background on me
Yeah,
might help.
I'd love
Okay, I
that.
was born in Edmonton, Alberta, in the western part of Canada. It's a city that's ideal for young kids, but it's way up north, cold in the winter, like down to 50 below cold. So cold your car won't start in the morning unless you have a block heater, and even then, sometimes it won't. Um, I like to tell the story. One day I was going to school and it was 50 below, 50 below zero. I remember you could hear the sap in the trees cracking, freezing. And if you spit, before it landed, it froze. It was that cold. Anyway,
Wait,
uh,
Fahrenheit or Celsius? I have to know.
that's well, then it was Fahrenheit. Now it's
Okay.
Celsius. Yeah.
Okay.
So you
Got
got
it.
an idea. Yeah. So that's where I came from. But in my life, my mother had a sister who lived in Los Angeles. And so they started cycling but me back and forth. In the winter, I'm going to school and so on in Canada. In the summer, I'd go to Los Angeles and be with my.
Nice.
So this went on. My father died when I was fairly young, 9 years old. So my mother pretty much raised me.
Mm.
And I like to say in that regard, I got to mention this one thing. My mother pretty much put me through law school, washing floors on her hands and knees through university and law schools. So I have a great deal of respect for her and honor her.
Yeah.
It's, very important, it's sacred territory for me to talk like that. But it was true. It's actually true. When my father died, he left some money for my mother to have an apartment, kind of rooming house, and she, rented out rooms and stuff like that. That's how she made the money to have us live and so on. Anyway, that's young in my life. Over time, I went to high school in Los Angeles. And then, as it turned out, my whole life has been like that, back and forth from Canada to the United States to this day. So, for example, my kids, one of my children, a son, is a lawyer, believe it or not, in New York. My daughter's a filmmaker here in Toronto with us, and so on. And no, I didn't, encourage my son to be a lawyer and grow up like his dad. No, I didn't say anything like that. I encouraged him to and her to be what they're interested in and pursue. So that's the legal thing. I went to law school at UBC in Vancouver. I went to law school for a couple of reasons. One was I thought I could be helpful. My mother didn't speak English very well, ran an apartment building, a lot of legal questions all the time. So I thought if I go to law school, I could help in that area. But more idealistically, I thought this world is full of terrible problems. And I believed that a key to solving world conflict and war and everything like that was law. If only the people knew what the law said, they wouldn't be fighting, and it's my job to learn the law and write legal briefs and tell people this is the law, this is how we should sort out. Well, little did I know that the world is not just about law, it's about like selfishness and egotism and wealth and power and
Yeah.
So I learned that after I got out of law school, but it's anyway.
Yeah. And that's really kind of the point is that, it doesn't matter what you go into. I became a teacher. I went into teaching and my parents were like, you should be a teacher. You used to play, you used to play teacher. They're right. I played teacher as a kid. I wanted to teach. I pretend, I love teaching and I did love teaching. But when I found out what really it was like being in a windowless classroom, and the dealing with it wasn't the kids are great. I taught middle school, loved teaching middle school, but dealing with the parents, not so much. So it was just when you find out all the aspects of the profession that you pick when you're 20, and our frontal lobes are not even fully formed until
Yeah,
we're 25, and so that's where I think there's a lot of disconnect. Now some people stick it out. Or
yeah,
some people can change into something that does fit. You went into immigration law. There's a whole different realm of aspiration and help and service in what you're doing than perhaps what you initially meant to
correct.
do. A
Yeah.
fun side story. I did tell my kids, hey, you can do anything you want to do, but skip the hospitality or the teaching because it's just a really high burnout rate, both of them.
Yeah.
One became an education major, the other was a hospitality major. Boom. And that's how a great a mom
That's
I am.
life. That's life. But I would say this, there are students here, that work with me, and maybe they're not happy about law sometimes. So I tell them this little story. I say, look, draw a circle, and in this circle is your law practice. Now, in that circle, there may be things you like and things you don't like.
Mhm.
So let's draw a little circle in the larger circle. And let's say that's the stuff you like of all this law. If you don't like this other stuff, focus more on the little circle. Let it grow. Make that a bigger part of your law practice. And sort of crowd out the stuff you don't like. Pass it on to other people. And that's how you can turn a profession that perhaps in the beginning you don't like into one that may be manageable or even enjoyable.
And
So
there
it
is
worked.
the journey of the solopreneur. Because when you're
Yes.
a solopreneur, it's all on you.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to figure out the books, the banking, all the stuff.
Yeah.
The classic book E-Myth Revisited, where Sarah has to learn that having a baking shop is not about baking pies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole bunch of other things that we have to do.
It's
So
funny.
you
I have a cousin who had exactly that.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
fun.
pie baking business.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So then eventually you decided to write a book. I mean, did you do other
Yeah,
things as well in terms of
I
your
did.
entrepreneurial journey? Did you work for a big law firm or did you go right into hanging your own shingle?
Oh, no, I did both. I had
Okay.
my own practice and I was a partner in various firms and so on. But I want to show you something that's just above my head here. It's a
Yeah.
plaque on the wall behind me,
Yeah.
and that's a Toastmasters plaque. And
Yay.
so I'm what you call a distinguished Toastmaster, which is the highest level of Toastmaster that you can get to. Now, I'm not telling you that because I'm, like I want everybody to glorify me because I'm a Toastmaster, but it raises a very important question or tells a good story about what you're asking.
Uh-huh.
I thought my role, and I was a Toastmaster for 35 years. I attended club meetings for 35 years where we talked and made presentations and uh, gave feedback to people who gave presentations to the point where I became a distinguished Toastmaster. Others can get this thing in 6 months, but it took me 35 years. But it turned out the world didn't want me to be a talker, speaker, presenter. No, no, no. The world said you need to be a writer. And the story there is when I was in university at UBC in first year, I took an English course, and the professor who was teaching English learned very quickly that I was very poor in writing essays and stuff like that. Indeed, I wrote one essay 5 times, correcting it and so on, and submitting it to the point where at the end of the year, the guy gave me a pass just to get me out of his class. That,
That is the same story as John Bevere.
oh, you're kidding.
No, he's written now 20 books. He was so bad. He said his SAT score was this. He only knows one person who had a lower SAT verbal score than he did. And by the way, for anybody, this is my past president pin for Toastmasters that I'm
Oh, bravo, bravo.
so past president. And we did. We actually did really well, and I was in it for a while. But John Bevere too. He was so bad at writing that people would just pass him forward. And then he actually had an anointing, a calling. So I'm excited to hear the rest of your story. In 1991, he had an anointing. He heard the voice of God say, "You need to write a book," and he ignored it
Oh, wow.
until two women walked up to him, two separate cities, and said, God says if you don't write this book, he's going to find somebody else to do it. Two random people walked up to him and said that. And he's like, so he wrote a contract, which is actually in this book. The book I'm holding up is called it's called X,
Oh, yeah.
Multiply Your God-Given Potential. But
Sounds like a great book.
he puts the actual contract he wrote is like, God, I can't write. So if you really want me to do this, it has to be you giving me everything. And now he's a multi-million dollar best-selling author. His
Oh,
first big book was called Bait of Satan.
wow.
Yeah,
That's a
excellent.
powerful story. Powerful.
And
I didn't have a
anointing like that?
anointing, not a lightning bolt from the sky. No. What
Okay.
happened was the hard, long, um, writing and being terrible more and being terrible more, but slowly learning from writing. Wait a minute, there's something here I could do. A little more, a little more, a little more. I started writing articles for newspapers, like student newspapers, and then I went into newspaper like magazines, and I became ultimately I started writing for, among others, a chain called Southern News Services, which is it had a chain of newspapers in Canada, and I became a UN correspondent.
Oh,
And yeah, and I spent 3 years at the UN in New York writing. And after that, I wrote these books and so on. But the lesson is, you want to get good at something, do it. Do it again, do it again, do it again. And over time, if you don't just do it, you have to study what you're doing and how can I improve? How can I improve? And over time, you do.
yeah. Well, it's like podcasting. Like, don't go back and watch my first show, please. Right? And I mean, the one that I did for 2 years
Yeah.
before I relaunched this podcast, because, when you start out anything, there's a learning curve. And I think that's a really important lesson for anybody that is stepping into entrepreneurship. Go at it messy.
Yeah.
the proverbial jump out of the plane and build your wings as you fall.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I need to stay. I want to share this story about
yeah.
Adlai Stevenson, who was once Secretary of State, I believe. He was at a book signing event, and he was signing a book, and a lady came up to him. This is a true story. And she said to him, "Oh, your book, it's so wonderful. It's so superfluous." And being the gentleman he said, "Well, thank you very much." And she says, "I do hope you'll write another book." And he says, well, perhaps posthumously. And she says, "Oh, great. The sooner the better." It's a highbrow story. I don't know if you get it, but like
Oh,
for
that's
the
funny.
highbrow, it's like you know, back to humor, which is another theme that I like a lot.
Yeah,
But
indeed.
that's a little bit about the writing side,
Yeah,
but the speaking side, I found the speaking much later, like now in life, because of podcasting and giving talks, uh, largely through podcasting and also giving talks on the side. Sometimes when I was speaking, like teaching, for example, at university was an area where I could also speak. So I've mixed these two together now, and I do both.
oh, wonderful. And that's another point. Where you start isn't always and possibly is rarely where you'll go.
That's
Because
that's
as you
exactly right.
increase your skills, you'll
Yeah.
develop a new interest or a new, when I started Joyminder, I'm like, want to do this. Or I had a particular group of people I thought I wanted to work with. But over the time, I realized, you know what? As many entrepreneurs do, I realized I really want to work with the person I was when I had struggles. And that was
Yeah.
being a teacher, not liking being locked in the classroom. I'm in Minnesota, you're in Canada. So in Minnesota, we also, the sun comes up at 8:30, goes down at
Yeah.
4:30. So if you're in the school at 7:30 and there till 5:30, you don't see the sunlight for 5 days.
Oh, Lord.
And so I knew that wasn't healthy.
Right.
And I just wasn't happy. So I want to find, and 75% of teachers are burned out, especially since 2020.
Yeah.
So I really want to help those that also have the desire to become an entrepreneur, to at least
Yeah.
find a way to do it. Maybe not full time. I'm not saying they have to leave teaching, but have some more joy in their life, something that if they're burned out of teaching, but they feel like they have to stay for some reason, have some other reason they love to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Why do
Yeah.
you love to get up in the morning?
Why do I or what do I?
Why?
Why? Uh, I have a ton of things I want to accomplish. Like, I think if you don't have goals, you're going to have a hard time with your life. Goals are really important. And that brings us to another sort of theme that you've been touching on, which is balance. How do you lead your life in a way where you're not overloaded, but you're doing a good job and you're at the peak performance part of the cycle, so to speak. Um, and a thing I can share with the listeners on that subject is balance is about values. What are your values? You have to know your values in order to get into balance in your life. And if you're unhappy with your life, as we all are at times, check, check your suppositions about who you are, and what you're doing. Your values. Check what is it that's important to you. List values. Now, values can be things like, I don't know, like integrity, honesty, sincerity, etc. And they can also be something more concrete, like physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, whatever. But you have
Absolutely.
to start with identifying your values. And then you have to, uh, here's a little exercise. I showed you my tape thing. I'm going to share one other one with you.
Okay. And
If
while
you're
you're
into
telling me,
values,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know how much time we got left, but
Yeah.
this will be quick. If you're into, trying to figure out how can I be more balanced, my life is out of kilter. Um, Imagine a bicycle tire. You got a whole hub and spokes leading out,
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine each one of those spokes might be a value that you have. For example, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, etc. So you can, if you want to do a check on your balance, you can say, you can ask yourself, out of 1 to 10,
Mm-hmm.
1 being at the hub, 10 being on the outer rim, where are you emotionally right now? You could say 7, let's say. Where are you physically? 5. Where are you intellectually? 10, etc. And you go around like that. And then you just, you know, match up all the points and see, do you have a tire? Do you have a circle or do you have a flat tire? If you got a flat tire, it tells you you got to focus on those values that you've identified and you've told yourself need more focus, spend more time on them, more energy. And that's how
Okay,
you
fine. I'll be at the gym in the morning.
me me too.
Actually, so with Joyminder, we have something called the sailing system,
Oh,
SAILING, and S stands for setting your course. And that is the exact time that we help people clarify their purpose, their values, their vision, figure out why they want to start a business at all and what success would look like for them. It's the dreaming and the planning phase, and it's critical. You have to do that really before you do anything else. It is, and exercises like the one that you just described are excellent for that.
yeah.
Just a couple more questions, and we do have to wrap up. But one is, what role has mentorship and or community played in your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I'm going to tell a little story about that. It's played a huge role. And here's the mentorship that played the most in my role. There was a guy who was in Toastmasters and he was invited as a Golden Gavel speaker, which is an award that Toastmasters gives once a year to some great speaker to come and give a speech at a banquet. And this guy, his name was Bob Richards. And I listened to a tape of his speech at the Toastmasters convention about this topic. And in this speech, he told this story, which is about in his life how he met a baseball player. One day he was out in the baseball stadium with his father watching a game, and one of the great baseball players at that time in his little town was a guy named Lou Boudreau. And Lou Boudreau came up to plate and hit a home run, and Richards caught the ball. So he ran after the game to the stadium dressing room and waited for Boudreau to come out. And as Boudreau came out, he had the baseball and he asked Boudreau to, give him an autograph. And Boudreau said this to him. He said, "Hello, what's your name?" And Richard says, Bobby Richards. And Boudreau asked him, "And what are you planning to be when you grow up?" And he said, "I want to be a great baseball player." And Boudreau said to him, "That's great, Bobby. I can really see it. You're going to be great someday, Bobby." And Richards, in this speech, related that story, saying, what a powerful message that left for him. How great an influence someone that you respect and honor, if they'll take a moment to pat you on the back to say you will be great one day.
Ah,
And he went on to talk about motivation. And he explained it in this way. He said, motivation is painting a larger picture of the life of the person you're talking to than the one that they have at the moment for themselves. And the moment of motivation is when the person clutches onto that larger picture and accepts it for their future in their life. So for me, motivation and people like Jim Rohn, for example, was a great motivator for me. I met him personally. And I attend many of his speeches. He was an American public speaker, a great speaker.
well
So
known.
that be an
Tony
example.
Robbins followed him, a lot of people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing. Well, and where before my last question, where can people find you? Is it best to find you on LinkedIn? Are you an Instagram guy?
No. PaceLawFirm.com is my law firm. So you can find me there.
Okay,
You can find my books, Andy Semotiuk. If you on Amazon, you can find all my books there if you want to look for a book.
great. And we will have all the contact information below anywhere you're hearing or watching this podcast. So, final, if you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting their entrepreneurial journey, and I know you wrote a whole book about this, so we're
Yeah.
excited to welcome you onto our summit coming up in January as well.
Okay.
So that will be fun. But what's your nugget that you want to share?
Okay. 7 rules for a successful life. 1, do what you promise. 2, come on time. 3, finish what you start. 4, be sincere. 5, actions speak louder than words. 6, be kind. We talked about kindness
We
earlier.
did. Yeah.
7, be thankful for the life you have.
And you did not read this off of a list. This is well memorized from the heart. And I appreciate that so much. Andy, this has been a delightful conversation. Thank you for joining me on Beyond the Business Plan.
It was great. Thanks a lot for having me, Leanne. It was really good.
My pleasure. And to our audience, we want to thank you as well for joining us on Beyond the Business Plan to unleash your joyful business potential. Remember, entrepreneurship is a voyage you can take with others. So find your tribe and keep leading with heart. And we will see you on the next episode. My name is Lyon, Chief Joy Officer of Joyminder LLC. We'll see you soon. Hey, sales setters, want to navigate your success with ease? Download the Sailing System, your practical guide to charting a course, setting goals, and growing with purpose. Find it now at joyminder.com or check the show notes below for your roadmap to results. Thank you for sailing with me on today's Beyond the Business Plan podcast. If this episode helped you as a sales setter, the best next step is to follow the show and share it with one friend who's ready to move beyond burnout into a more joyful, aligned way of doing business in life. To see where you are in the sailing journey and get your next right steps, download the free Sailing System guide at joyminder.com. And if you're exploring real estate investing or private money lending, you can also learn about working with me at lyoncapitalllc.com. Until next time, keep setting your course and adjusting your sails beyond the business plan.